Hello, welcome to our podcast, Mystic Sisters, with Sarah and Kerry. Each week we talk about a different spiritual or magical topic. This week we've got a special episode on Jim Morrison. Kerry's a big fan of Jim Morrison. She's been a fan for a long time, and it's his birthday approaching, so we are doing a special episode on him. So Kerry's got some words she wants to say first.
Hey, I'm actually reading the collected works of Jim Morrison, his poetry, journals, transcripts, and lyrics. And I was going to start with his poetry first. And it's funny because I kind of flipped through the page and kind of tried to channel Jim to see which one I should read. And it's kind of funny because it's what's going on in the earth right now. And his poem is called The Village Recorder Tapes. In that year, we had a great visitation of energy. Back in those days, everything was simpler and more confused. One summer night, going to the pier, I ran into two young girls. The blonde was called Freedom, the dark one Enterprise. We talked and they told me the story. Come, for all the world lies hushed and fallen. Green ships dangle on the surface of ocean and sky. Birds glide smugly among the plains. Gaunt, crippled houses strangle the cliffs. In the east, in the cities, a hum of life starting now. Come and the cool fluttering rotten wind in a child's handprint on a picture window. I'm sorry, but that's funny. In the rotten wind in a child's in the sun cocked and held resting on the shoulder, Western style. And fire in the night waiting in a darkened house for the cruel, insane breed from town to arrive. And come poking through smoke and fuel and ashes for milk, and the evil leer on their faces, barking with triumph. Who will not stop them? The hollow tree where we three slept and dreamed, in the movement of whirling shadows and grass, tired rustle of leaves, an old man stirs the dancers with his old dance, darkening. Swift shadows lean on the meat of forest to allow breathing. Gently they stir, gently rise. The dead are newborn awakening. That's the new breed he's talking about. It seems like he kind of knew it back then, right? Wouldn't you say that? Gently they stir, gently rise. The dead are newborn awakening.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
And he says, with ravaged limbs and wet souls, gently they sigh in rapt funeral amazement. Who called these dead to dance? Was it the young woman learning to play the ghost song on her baby grand? Was it the wilderness children? Was it ghost God himself? Stuttering, cheering, chatting blindly. I call you up to anoint the earth. I call you to announce sadness falling like burned skin. I called you to wish you well, to glory in self like a new monster, and now I call on you to pray. That was like a really deep, I love it.
Yeah.
Right?
It was quite dramatic and very deep.
And I can relate because I'm very dramatic. Indeed. I guess that's why I like him so much. But I'm gonna read one more, and then I'm going to go into the messages I got from him. But then he says, of the great, insane American night we sing, sending our gift to its vast promise. Pilots are a problem, the rain and hungry sea, greedy for steel. To say a soft American prayer, a quiet animal sigh, for the strong plane landing. We rode on opium tires from the colossal airport chess game at dawn, new from glass in the broken night, landed then in quiet fog, beside the Times out of the strange river, then gladly through a wasted morning, happy to be alive, two signs of life, a dog, a schoolgirl, are we in Harlem. And then I was going to mention, I channeled him before we got on this podcast because I asked him the type of things that he wanted to talk about, if he had any basically if he had any messages for us or any wisdom we could learn from him. The first thing he said was something he wrote. It was, "Wild child full of grace, here to save the human race." So he knew he was one of the light workers. He knew he had a mission, and he knew in a way he was here to help others. And he wanted to say that he was one of the original light bringers. He called it light. We call it light workers. He called it like light bringers, here to basically to set your mind and your soul free from your own persecution. He likes that word. I love that word too, from setting yourself free from persecution. And that's when he mentioned like religion being false. And basically he said, basically the persecutions that happened in the past are still happening now. Like, you should be allowed to believe in what you want. You shouldn't be told what to believe in. Like, you should have your own type of religion. And then, he brought upon that and brought upon like a little bit of like the Pilgrims and Thanksgiving. A lot of that was the Pilgrims being mixed in with Puritans as well, because of, and just how like Thanksgiving isn't like a real holiday, like in a sense, because the people that say that they're grateful were also the ones that stole land and killed people. And he talked about ancestral healing your inner child, being more responsible, like for the earth and animals, and standing up to your fears because they're not really real, getting more in touch with yourself and your emotions. And he said music is very healing, that there's messages in the lyrics, and just music itself can be healing. And he even put some messages in his own poetry and lyrics. He talked about his past lives. And he did want to mention that right now it is a time of healing on the planet. He said the matrix is falling apart. And he said to keep listening to music because it's healing and it can free your soul. And he said there'll come a time when a new rare race will enter this planet, more evolved. So he said they'll be already awakened. So they won't have to awaken like the rest of us. They'll already be awakened. And he said some trials, he said that the trials that we went through, the paths are being woven now. Even if we can't see it, he said each step that we take forward is the direction we will take. So it's like to choose a path, because the paths are being made, and he said be careful of the company you keep and not to give away your power, and it almost seemed like the paths were like either going to the 3D or like going on to a higher plane, like going in your higher direction with your higher self, like being your full self, or do you want to stay trapped? So I guess that'll be the two paths that we'll be choosing, that people will be able to choose, where they want to stay. And then he channeled a poem that I was going to read. He said, no two souls are the same. There is wisdom to gain from each other, higher learning, wisdom burning. The truth is being burned across the land. Freedom is at hand. Forging across in your mind, souls remembering past lives. And one more thing that I really wanted to do is I really wanted to just play a quick clip of his song, The Crystal Ship. I don't know why, but I keep hearing it in my head. His song, The Crystal Ship. Sarah, have you heard that one?
No, I don't think I have.
Here.
Into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss, another flashing dress and this, another kiss, another kiss.
This next line is what I keep hearing. This right now, what he's about to say.
The days are bright and filled with pain. Enclose me in your gentle rain. The time you ran was still insane. We'll meet again.
That kept standing out when he said, the days are bright and filled with pain. I think it's because, I'll let you talk now, but I don't know, I was just getting the feeling of that's how we can feel on Earth here.
Yeah, that's really interesting. They were really beautiful lyrics. He really goes deep with his lyrics. Yeah, I feel that he did suffer a lot of pain on Earth and feeling of being misunderstood. I feel like he was trying to capture that feeling because he wanted to be free, and there were so many restrictions, and he felt like he was misunderstood. So I feel like that those feelings helped to influence him with that song and with other songs that he's written.
Yeah, I get the feeling too. I keep hearing in my intuition judged. He felt like he was judged, like everyone was judging him and misunderstanding the whole point of him.
Yeah, I feel like he did feel like he was misunderstood. He felt like he was, he's saying he felt like he was villainized at times.
Yeah.
Because he says that he just wanted to make music, have fun, and share his music with others, but he felt like there was too many restrictions on him, and he felt that he was villainized and misunderstood by the people. And he says that he got to the point where he stopped trying to prove himself, and then he just let go. But that's what sent him on a negative path, because he just said, okay, I don't care about trying to prove myself anymore. But then he started harming himself and self-sabotaging things because he was trying to rebel, and he just felt like I don't fit in anyway, so I'm not going to try and fit in.
Yeah, I get that too. I feel like that's when he started drinking more to try to numb out like all these feelings, because it's like so many things were coming at him, you know, so many different groups, and just it's like the focus was on him, and a lot of it, you know, like the media and everyone trying to portray him, you know, as trouble because he got arrested or things. And it's almost like the Illuminati and them didn't want him in a way to speak his truth. It's almost like another way, you know, like they wanted to silence, because he was trying to talk about the awakening. If in all his words and his poetry, it's all being talked, like he talks about past lives and awakening.
Yeah, he did feel very frustrated about his situation, and he felt like his creativity was being restricted, because he's saying that he had to answer to the man, and his creativity was restricted because of that. And he felt like he was being forced to fit into a certain mold, which made him unhappy. And he felt like he wasn't being true to himself, because he just wanted to be free, and he was a spiritual person, but he didn't feel able to express that enough during his lifetime. He just felt like there was a lot of control around him, and I feel that the people in charge, the people who his management, they didn't like it, that they couldn't control him enough. He was a free spirit, and they weren't able to control him, and that made things worse for him.
Was his management involved in the Illuminati? I just feel like there was dark around the trying to control him.
Yeah, I do feel like there's dark energies. I feel that there were people around him that they didn't like it, that they couldn't control him, and he didn't like the feeling of having to sacrifice his creativity, because I feel like there were people who were telling him what he could and couldn't say, what he could and couldn't write, and he felt too restricted. He's saying that's no way to be creative. And a part of the reasons his addictions come out just because he was trying to cope with everything that's going on around him, feeling misunderstood, feeling controlled, and he was trying to escape that feeling.
That makes a lot of sense. Like he just felt like he couldn't be himself. Well, how can you if everyone's telling you what to do?
Yeah, I feel that it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. Being a rock star, it wasn't, and there wasn't the way that he thought it was going to be. I feel like he did start out wanting to make music and wanting to share his music, and he says there are too many temptations and too many people trying to control him, and is setting down a negative path. And he's saying that he wasn't ready for that path in that lifetime because he came through with he had a lot of missions he wanted to do on Earth, and he wasn't used to those energies. So I do feel like he had lifetimes on another planet, and he came through with this pure energy, and he wanted to use his creativity to help other people, and he didn't get to do what he set out to do. He wasn't able to handle the pressure that was on him and feeling of being controlled. And he's saying that when he first passed, he says that he did feel a sense of relief at first because he didn't have those burdens anymore. He didn't feel controlled anymore. He felt free. But then there's also some regret afterwards because he wasn't able to carry out his missions. But he feels like he wasn't ready at that time, and the way that the music industry was, it wasn't allowing for creativity. And he didn't realise how hard that was going to be, and he wasn't able to be himself and express himself.
Why do I sense though that his death wasn't really from him? Like, is it possible that the dark forces or the Illuminati had something to do with the drugs that he took? Because it just seems like, I don't know, I just get a weird feeling about his death, like it wasn't him.
I do get this feeling, I just got this vision now of there are people just handing him, I'm not sure what words you can use on YouTube, but handing him certain substances, and he's just taking what he's given. And I feel like some of them were laced, some of them were were very harmful, but it feels like other people were supplying him with stuff and he was just taking it. So the people in charge of him, they knew that they could control him in that way, even though they couldn't control him in a spiritual sense. They could control him in a physical sense in that way.
I just had a vision of him having a heart attack from what they gave him.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, like whatever they gave him was laced or something. There was something wrong about what was given to him. And it wasn't the story everyone said. It had nothing to do with Pam. It was something that someone else, like you said, someone close, like a manager or somebody, gave him something, and it was laced.
Yeah, I feel that he was handed things, and I feel like there were certain people who would try and gain his trust, and even though, because he was very intuitive, and even though he could sense that there were people who weren't true friends and they didn't really care about him, but I feel like he got into such a state at times that he was just taking what was given to him, and he was just self-sabotaging because he didn't feel happy with his life at that time.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad. Yeah, I'm just at a loss of words because he was so young. He was just 27, and he just had so much to offer, like he just had so much to bring to the earth.
It's hard to believe that he was so young when he passed, because he had achieved so much, and he was so talented, and quite, like, I listen to his music now and he seems like he was quite advanced for his time, because I think that his band, they weren't that popular over here in the UK, but at that time. But I feel that I listen to his music, and it does feel like it's ahead of its time, like that people are still listening to it now, and in a lot of ways I feel like he became more popular around the world after he passed, because it seems like most of his fame was in the USA, but afterwards his music was listened to by people around the world more.
Yeah, I feel that, well, I actually remember because I was a kid, I was a teenager. They made a film about Jim called The Doors. It was an Oliver Stone movie, which was a really good movie. And I feel that was back, I was in high school, so I had to be about 17 or 18, but they basically talked about, his life, how he started a little bit. They showed clips of when he was a kid, not much, just like in the car saying that he thought he saw an Indian die and things like that. And he felt the death was kind of traumatic. So they showed like clips of like maybe parts of his youth, but mainly it was how he got started with the Doors, like how him and Ray Manzarek met, and then the rest of the group. And it showed like a little bit of how the music, but I don't know, I feel it was a bad portrayal in a way. I'm glad to see the movie in a sense because it was kind of a cool movie, but at the same time they didn't portray him enough as the soul that's trying to write and be creative and stuff. Instead they put drugs and drinking and people and women and the police, and I just feel like they made it chaotic instead of what he was really trying to do. And they portray a lot of people like that. But I feel it was a wrong portrayal of Jim.
So I haven't seen the film. I have to try and find it. But I do notice that on a lot of these biographic films, it's like they'll show them, portray them in a certain way that that's not entirely accurate. They'll show what they want people to see, and they don't capture the full character of the person.
Right. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because there's people in their lives and who speak up on it, and they'll say it wasn't like this, or they'll shed light on like other aspects of their character, and they don't show that in this film. They exaggerate things often as well in their lives because they want to make it dramatic and they want to make it entertaining, and so you don't really see the full them. You see the Hollywood version of them.
They showed him setting a closet on fire, and I don't believe that ever happened. They showed him setting a closet on fire. Pam was in it and he set it on fire, and I don't believe that ever happened.
They always come out with these, the media, and they come out with these really dramatic stories about certain celebrities. Like there's always rumours about people throwing TVs and different things out of hotel rooms, but it's often like really exaggerated, or it's not true. It's like a rumor that was started.
Right. Well, just like one part was interesting though, I have to say, it was the witchcraft part, because he was with Patricia Keneally, and she was a witch, and I thought that was actually interesting because in his time, I still feel that witches weren't really like welcomed. You know what I mean? Like in the 60s and stuff, that's not a welcome. It just doesn't feel like it was a welcoming time. So I thought that was wild that they threw that in there, that he met a witch and she was actually Celtic and Druid. So I thought that was a really cool piece that they put in there, because that part I believe was true, and I believe he was drawn to that, and but the only thing is like, she did a spell and then she did the hand fasting. So she's saying that she married Jim by the hand fasting of the witch rituals. You know what I mean? Which is a real thing that the woman said that she did do. But I thought that was just a very interesting piece. I like how they put that in there about witches and stuff. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of wild in there, and I feel bad because it almost feels like he was drunk and didn't know what was going on, and he just got married. Poor Jim. Because he's just like, wait, I thought we were just doing something fun and cool. We were doing a fun ritual, you know.
Didn't understand what he was doing.
He didn't understand it. It's kind of funny. You'll have to watch it and let me know what you think.
Yeah, what is it called?
It's called The Doors.
It's just called Doors. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find it anyway.
By Oliver Stone. I gotta admit, like, even though like some of it, you know, of course they exaggerated, but Oliver Stone is he's just a genius, because the way that he put the camera to look and the way the scenes that he did were perfect with the music. Like when he does the end blows me away. The way they do Jim's music and they're playing the end, the whole scene in the desert, Jim is just like out there and just like on the drums, and him and his band are out there, girls are dancing and they're having fun. And all of a sudden Jim's like, wait, I don't want to do this anymore. He's like, I just don't want to be a part of this. He just wanted to go his own way. And all of a sudden he starts walking in the desert and the music comes on and he sees all these things. And it's like, he's seeing a shaman. He's seeing this Indian that he's kind of seen since he was a kid. And it leads him into a cave, and it's wild. And all of a sudden he's on stage. So the music and just the way the scenes that they show are genius. So at least the music was just, the music really, the way they put his music in there, that gave him justice. And a lot of the scenes, the way that they did the music like that were wild. It was a good movie.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for it.
Yeah.
Wonder what Jim thinks of it.
Yeah. Can you ask him?
Okay. He's saying that I wish my life was that exciting.
He said that?
Yeah, so he's making me feel like they exaggerated a few things in the film.
Does he care for it at all, the movie?
He finds it entertaining, because I feel like he did like watch it. He liked watching films. He liked to be entertained. He liked listen to music, watching films. He's saying films are another artwork that he appreciated. So I feel like he likes it for the creativity and for the entertainment value. But he's saying that that there are things that were exaggerated in the film. He's saying over time as well that certain things change. We say things to people and then they remember something different, and then the story gets changed over time. So he's saying that they did use memories, or they used conversations with people that were linked to him, but he's saying that certain things, that the memories had changed over time and certain things weren't accurate. Because when was the film made?
It was in the 90s. I want to say it came out like, it had to be 1991, I think.
Well, that makes sense, because he's making me feel like it was a long time afterwards, and so certain things that people remembered had changed over time, and so it wasn't entirely accurate, because the people tend to exaggerate things in their mind over time. And so he's saying that certain things were exaggerated, and also Hollywood, or the director and people working on the film, they exaggerate things as well for entertainment value. So he's saying that he wishes things were exciting, because he said it was pretty wild in the film.
That's hilarious. And you know what? It's funny you say that about the filmmaking, because it does mention that he went to college for filmmaking, not for very long, but it talks about how he went to college and they were showing like what his first movie was like, and that he wanted to be a filmmaker. So that's funny that you say that, because they do portray that in the film.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I feel he would have been an amazing like filmmaker.
I wonder if he would have gone on to do that when he was, if he'd been able to live longer, because I feel like he was interested in learning and using different kinds of arts. Because even though his love is music, I feel like he was interested in expressing himself in different art forms.
Yeah,
So I feel like he would have tried different things in the future.
I think you're right. I think he would have been really good at it too. I think he would have tried that. I think he would have lessened up maybe on the music and done more poetry and maybe just making films and stuff. I think he would have stayed in music, but not as heavy as he was at one point, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I feel like he would have not walked away from music, but not, like you said, not do as much music, because I feel like he'd want to try other things. Because he's saying that the music industry was a toxic place, so I feel like he didn't want to focus too much of his energy on that. He didn't want to be doing interviews and going to lots of celebrity parties. He wanted to just make his music. So I feel like he would have made the odd album here and there and sold his albums. But I feel like he would have also come out of Hollywood and spent more lived more remotely, and he would have worked on different projects over time. And so I feel that things like filmmaking and other things he would have been interested in, so he could explore different art forms. And I feel like he would have traveled more as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about this? There's something else that I think about too about his death is how he was 27 and all around the same time, him, Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin, they were all 27. They all died around the same time. Is there like a connection there? It seems weird. It seems like it's
Well, I know around age 27 is when you have your first Saturn return. That's the time where people often go through difficult times and they really question their life and what they want to do in the next chapter of their life. And so it is like a sink or swim kind of time in your life. And in this celebrity world, when they've got all this pressure on them as well, they are questioning their life more at that time, and that it can cause these devastating consequences at that time. So I feel like it is partly astrological related, and being at that time of their lives.
but there's some other thing, Sarah, that I read it and it said that the same dealer that gave Jim heroin gave it to Janice too. So it was this some kind of connection there that I feel
Yeah.
that it was laced or something was going on.
But I also feel like it is partly to do with that with the industry, and they are people that are targeted, and they use certain dates and certain
Oh, the
astrological
Illuminati,
events.
the dark arts. You mean like how they kind of were a sacrifice in a sense?
Yeah, things like that do happen as well. And I think the number 27 is one of the significant numbers, I think.
Creepy. That just reminds me of like a sacrifice. Like around that time, a lot of people were sacrificed. Like the three of them, but even Sharon Tate was almost 27 and she was sacrificed, I feel, and her child. I feel they sacrificed a lot of people around that age. Like you said, it had some kind of significance on the days that they died.
Yeah, yeah. There's been quite a lot, because there was Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and it still
Yeah.
happens now with yeah. And there's also certain dates that are used, and certain astrological events like full moons, and full moon or eclipses, and they use certain energies as well for that.
I feel though that that dark energy back then spread wide, like for Jim and Janice and Jimi Hendrix, but then Sharon Tate and that evil energy that was around them spread wide around a lot of healers. I feel a lot of people died back then. I feel on a healing mission. It's like they were trying to wipe out all the people, the light bringers.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was around the hippie age, and where there were lots of indigo children and people who were helping to bring in a more spiritual era. So that group of people were targeted a lot at that time.
Yeah, it's scary to think about that. It just seems like the wave that came in back then, they were just trying to kind of wipe that out. It's sad, how everything went down. It's just, I had a traumatic dream about that in the 60s, because I was in the 60s too. And I had a very traumatic dream that dark energy that spread from them was just around. And that's what killed me too. It killed all the light workers. And I died at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably one of the people that was targeted at that time. And also your soul may not have been able to cope with the energies at that time either, with the dark energies. And so on a spiritual level, may have chosen to leave.
That makes a lot of sense. That's probably why a lot of young souls died back then, because it just wasn't ready to handle all that darkness back then.
Yeah.
It seems like spirit kind of, in a sense, it's like learn from those things that happen to make sure that there's more protection around us now, to make it, the times are different now where everyone that's spiritual and stuff is allowed to be who they are now, in a sense. Like there's too many people. There isn't like you could just target a few, because there's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is like a big divide between the dark and the light.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of a different time. I'm not saying at all that it's better. But it just seems like it's not as much of witch hunts like it was back then. Like you would stand out more back then for being a light bringer. Like in the 60s, there wasn't as many, so you would stand out more. Now there's just so many. It seems like it's kind of like a confusion to the dark energy, because it's like, wow, well, who is it? You can't just say just a few, because there's so many.
Yeah, there's more people who have awakened since then. There is more light on Earth, I think.
Yeah, that does make sense. Do you think Jim wants to say anything else?
Ask him now.
Okay.
He's talking about singing, and he's saying that singing opens up the throat chakra, and singing's very healing as well. So he wants people to sing more. He's saying that he doesn't like it, because I feel that, because Jim is he's a free spirit, and I feel that one of the things he doesn't like that's happening at the moment is this restriction of freedom of speech. People are having their freedom of speech being taken away, and he really doesn't like this, and he's saying to sing and open up that throat chakra, and he's saying to use your voice before, he says, use your voice before your rights get taken away. So he's saying that we've got to speak out about things, because otherwise we could lose our rights, and we can't just allow things to happen and just say, oh, I'll deal with it tomorrow, or it doesn't affect me directly, so I'm not going to bother. He's saying that we've got to speak out so we don't lose our rights, because he wants us all to have freedom here on Earth. So he's saying it's very important that we hold on to our right to be able to speak our truth, because it's Thanksgiving now, is recording this, and he's saying that as an American, he says that he knew it was very, he says that freedom of speech is very important. It's one of the founding beliefs of America, and so he's saying that it's time to take responsibility for this and to speak our truth. He says, don't let anyone take your rights off you, and he's also saying that loves his fans. He's sending out a lot of love because he's saying that fans that were of that time, but also now as well, because he says that his fans have always had love for him, and he feels that love now in the spirit world, because he says love is never wasted, and so he feels that love, and he wants people to be inspired and to create their own work, their own artwork, their own songs. He loves art, he loves seeing art, he loves hearing music, he loves watching films, and he says he wants people to take on board the messages that he's given in his music, and he wants people to be inspired. Most of all, he wants people to keep channeling that creativity and to be inspired by his work, because he's talking about the AI taking over, and he's saying that the AI is trying to take away our creativity. So he says that it's important that we keep being creative, and because he says that's one of the only things that the AI, they can't take from us. They can only mimic our creativity. They can't create themselves. So he says to keep expressing yourself, keep being creative, because he says that the art that the AI creates is not real art, doesn't have emotion or passion in it. So those are really powerful messages from Jim, basically saying that we gotta use our voices and keep being creative.
It is really powerful. You know that the AI is using his voice. I wonder if that's part of why he brought it up too, that I've seen some videos made on YouTube, and it's an AI version. They took his voice and they took other people's songs and made videos with Jim.
I've seen that. I've seen people with using Freddie Mercury and Elvis as well, and putting them in songs. And while it can be fun to listen to them, he's saying that we got to be careful that we don't allow them to take over, to take control, because he's saying that we need to remember that the creativity comes from us. We can't rely on these AIs to create music for us. We got to remember that true artistic expression comes from us humans. So I feel like he's saying if you do it for fun, then if you listen to it or making it for fun, then that's okay. But he says that there's a line, and you've got to be careful. And he's just saying, don't forget our creativity.
What does he think of as far as, like, well, I know he loved the earth, but what does he think about as far as, like paganism and different spiritualities and stuff? What does he feel about that?
He's saying that he wasn't able to fully explore his spirituality when he was here, but he was starting to become more spiritual later in life, and I feel that he likes the freedom of spirituality and paganism. He likes that people can form their own beliefs. He feels that spirituality should be our own personal journey, and we shouldn't have it dictated to us. So he likes the idea of us being able to grow and explore our spirituality in our own terms.
Does he like spells?
He does, but he says to be careful with them as well, because some people have bad intentions. So as long as you use it with good intentions. He's saying that words are important as well. Words can be spells, and the words that we use, it's important that the words that we use carefully. But he says that he's interested in spells. He says there's nothing wrong with spells as long as they come from pure intentions.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. Thank you for listening to our podcast with me, Sarah, Kelly, and also with our special guest, Jim, today. We will be back again with another episode of Mystic Sisters.